everyone, my name is Jessie Carpenter, and in this slide, I'm going to talk about photography through the lens of deaf eyes. Photography is something we often think of as a universal language. It's somewhere where thoughts, feelings, and messages can be conveyed visually through an image as opposed to using spoken language. And this is what makes photography a wonderful outlet for the deaf community. It's somewhere they don't have to conform to the Hearing Society's auditory and spoken language refrainments, and they're able to use visual representation to convey their message to a broad audience. Below we have some images from well-known deaf and hearing impaired photographers, and I'm going to talk about each of them just a little bit. Beginning on this left-hand side, I wanted to give you a history into deaf photography. This image was taken by Bruno Brachis, and it depicts a time during the Paris Commune, which is a retaliation against the French government in the 1800s. Now, Bruno was deaf from a very young age, and we know this because of his attendance at the Royal Institute for the Deaf and Mute in Paris, France, which was recorded at the age of 9 years old. As an adult, he worked with his father-in-law as a daguerreotypist, which is an early form of photography where images were captured via a chemical process on silver plating. His early work included artistic photographs of nude subjects that were often used as inspiration and study reference for painters. However, he's best known for his work in photojournalism. In 1871, he began to document that Paris Commune I previously mentioned, and what made his work unique for the time was that he captured these images as the revolts were occurring, as opposed to just photographing the aftermath, like many of the photographers of his time did. And this is ultimately what led him to be a huge pioneer for the photojournalism industry as we know it today. Moving on to our more current form of photography, the second image was captured by Claire Cassidy. Claire was born deaf and she communicates using ASL. She is a photojournalism professor and also owns a photography business on the side. She is a huge advocate for the deaf community and uses a lot of her work to raise awareness for deaf culture. In recent years, she did a photo project called Roar from the Heart, where she raised awareness and funds for the Deaf Women of Color organization. She reports being deaf is actually an advantage in her photography career because she's not distracted by the noises of day-to-day life. She prides herself in capturing humanity in its natural state and is best known for her work in maternity photography, as well as lifestyle and wedding imagery. This third image was captured by an adventurer and photographer by the name of Jamie Del Pizzo. Jamie grew up with a severe to profound bilateral hearing loss, and she wears hearing aids to manage her symptoms. She's an avid adventurer, and she captures her love of travel through her photography. She often addresses the stigma that surrounds the deaf community on social media, and she talks about her desire to reverse what society is telling everyone about the deaf community. She aims to show people how beautiful deaf culture is inside and out, and this is truly what drives her work as a photographer. She states that her hearing loss is a benefit in her career as well because she's able to see the world in a way that most could never experience it. This fourth image was captured by an Australian photographer by the name of Kate Disher-Quill. She was diagnosed with hearing loss at the age of 3, and throughout her childhood and young adulthood, she often struggled with feelings of shame and embarrassment. When she was in her young adulthood, she read an article written by another deaf photographer that truly resonated with her, and it encouraged her to start helping those who were struggling with shame regarding their hearing loss, and she wanted to do this through her work in photography. Since then, she's been working on a project that she calls Earshot, where she captures members of the deaf community she feels have been deprived of representation. And she's actually published a book from this project where she recounts the testimonies that she's gathered from others regarding their deafness and hearing loss and some of the struggles that they have faced and overcome throughout their life. This final image was captured by an artist by the name of Isabel Lim. She was born with Naegeli syndrome, which is a rare genetic condition that left her profoundly deaf. She communicates using American Sign Language, and she switched from a special needs schooling to more of a mainstream education route in her young childhood. She wanted to pursue a career in accounting, but of course, the college lacked resources and didn't provide an interpreter for that coursework. She ended up joining a photography club that ultimately sparked her passion for photography as a career. She earned the Outstanding Deaf Student Award from the Singapore Association for the Deaf, and she now owns her own photography business where she focuses on event and portrait photography. She holds these really interesting silent workshops where the audience wears earplugs and communicates via text on a large LED screen. She states she does this to immerse the audience into her deaf world. She says she's always relied on an interpreter, but in these moments, at these silent workshops, she feels she finally has her own voice. Lim accounts her deafness as a strength as well, because she's able to let her intuition guide her and document the events unfolding in front of her without the distractions of noise or communication. A common theme you can see through all of these accounts and photographers is they don't view their hearing loss or deafness as a bad thing. They view it all through the perspective of deaf gain and actually see it as an attribute in their career, allowing them to focus on their work as artists and truly put their visual representation out there to the broad public.